It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Alex, Lindsay, and me. We're going to talk about the latest Mac news and a whole lot more. MacBreak Weekly coming up next. You stay right here.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at cachefly.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 208, recorded August 17th, 2010. Your plastic pal that's easy to be with. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account, go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. And by Go to My PC. For those of us who work around the clock, access your files and applications around the clock too with Go to My PC. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomypc.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers the latest news from Cupertino. Joining me right now in studio, the man who held down the fort last week, and I appreciate it last show, Mr. Alex Lindsay.
It was a shaky fort, but I did the best I could.
You held it down, my friend. You kept the Indians from invading. Oh, geez, now I'm going to be in trouble with the Indians. You kept the Muslims from invading. It's okay now, right? No? After that mosque thing? No?
No.
I should have probably not brought that up.
No.
Thank you, Alex Lindsay. And now... And now, desperately wishing he were not here, Mr. Andy Ihnatko from Boston.
So, Alex, which one of us do you think is going to be hosting the show and all the other Twitch shows like next week and turn on?
They can't fire me.
I can do half. I'm not sure you all.
Andy's with the Chicago Sun-Times and his website, The Celestial Waste of Bandwidth. There has been a move afoot to get me out of the chair of the hosting ball. Did you sit on the ball last week?
I did. I bounced on the ball.
Yeah, it's very comfortable, isn't it?
It's a very comfortable
Now,
ball.
I like the ball so much, I got shoes that are not flat.
The round shoes?
They're those
Skechers,
MBTs.
stilettos?
No, those MBT shoes. They look like stilettos. They look like Frankenstein shoes.
Yeah.
And
get more exercise.
The idea is that you're never standing still. You're always like wobbling.
And that's a good thing?
I don't see why that's a good thing, but I was told it was.
So you bought a pair of Lindsay's, did you?
Yeah. So now I sit on a ball at work and I wobble home on my shoes. There's something really desperately wrong with me. I think it's my wife. I think she's trying to make fun of me deep down inside.
Look at him wobble. He's got everything else together, but just look at him wobble. I'll always keep him off balance.
It's because I want to do Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. That would be great for the show.
Yeah, but great for the show, bad for me. So you guys last week, you're going to have to tell me what you talked about, what you didn't talk about. I haven't had a chance to listen to the show yet, but you did talk about Apple's liquid metal patent, right?
We talked about the patent.
So Leander Kahaney, writing in the Cult of Mac, a blog, cultofmac.com, reveals that, in fact, liquid metal has already been used, this is very science fiction, in an Apple product. Can you guess which Apple product has liquid metal in it? I'll give you a hint. Here's the picture. It is that thing. They don't include it anymore with the
bubble wand.
Yeah, it looks like a little tiny elven bubble wand.
It would make great bubbles, wouldn't it?
It's the weird little pin that was included with the iPhone 3G for popping the SIM out. They no longer include that since, I guess, a paperclip, a safety pin, anything will work.
It seems like a lot of work just for something that you can use a paperclip for.
Yeah. And it's liquid metal. It's hard as nails, has a distinctive color and feel.
So those are now collector's items if you have one.
Yeah, who saved theirs, right?
Yeah.
So the guy who, I guess, co-invented the alloy, Atakan Peker, not his real name, said he said, "That's my metal. I recognize it immediately. Take it from an expert. That is liquid metal." Cultofmac.com is independently confirmed that Apple did use liquid metal. They sourced the part from Liquid Metal Technologies. You thought it was a SIM removal tool? No, in fact, it was a test of the company's manufacturing capabilities. That's why they only included it once in one form of the iPhone, never included it in the 3GS or the 4, even though they still had. In fact, the 4, you needed it because you had to put a new SIM in, right? Or no, you didn't need it with the 4, but you needed it with the 3GS.
Yes.
Apparently, Apple has a strict policy that normally requires 2 separate sources for parts. This is single-sourced, so they really wanted to test it. There are not any other sources of liquid metal. Isn't that what they made the Terminator out of? It's practically
T-1000.
If you have
T-1000,
one,
exactly.
yeah, the T-1000, no, the original one. Yeah. If you have one, try and bend it. Pecker says it's practically. I'm sorry, I'm such a child. It's practically unbendable by hand.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Call a doctor after 4 hours. Anyway.
He co-invented liquid metal with engineering professor Bill Johnson. Oh, it's Pecker and Johnson. That's not April Fool's, is it?
Listeners, it helps to think that we have a combined age of something like 110, 120, and yet, yes, we are spending the first 10 minutes. Well, you see, actually, I met with somebody at the Wang Theater in Boston today. I'm sorry, the Metropolitan Opera House, as we used to be called before it got its corporate sponsorship in the 80s.
So Pecker and Johnson say it's practically unbendable by hand. So if you've got one, I want you to try and bend it, and let me report back to us. Yeah,
you can't do it. It's like folding a piece of paper more than 7 times.
By the way, somebody told me that was a canard.
No, you can't do that. I haven't been able to do it. I've tried.
I thought you couldn't, and apparently the Mythbusters managed somehow to bend it to fold it.
Yeah, you can't with a vise.
Yeah, that's
what they did it by. You're talking about the paper myth.
They used a giant. They used giant
paper folding myth.
Right, it was they made a piece of paper that was about the size of a football field, and and literally by folding it over and running it over with the steamroller with every fold.
Yeah. So yes, it's possible.
See, that's why skeptics are the people who should be running the country, because they're the one who will tell you that yes, aha, idiot.
Incidentally,
all you need is sorry. Good.
If you are attempting to bend your Johnson in Europe or Asia, you didn't get the liquid metal ones. Only U.S. iPhones, iPhone 3G.
These were special American technology that was
shipped with the liquid metal. So,
wow. Super high tech.
It's pretty cool.
Non-exportable.
So that's pretty cool. So anybody who's got one, I encourage our chat room to run to your part covered. See, I bet you out of how many millions of 3Gs did they sell? I bet you nobody saved.
I didn't.
I don't know.
I think there was literally like one of those things where I said, "What is this?"
Yeah.
If I have time during commercial break, I can go and get you like the key ring that has my key ring that has the actual Disk 2 installation hex wrench that came with every single Disk 2 drive. It is still on my key ring. It has been on there since I was 15 or 16 years old.
You never know when you're going to need
hex wrench. There are people who just hold on to such things because they're kind of cool and kind of interesting, and at some point you'll win a nerd argument by being able to produce it unexpectedly.
Apparently, some people are saying the iPhone still comes with it, but I don't mind it. I thought with the 3G, not the 3GS or the iPhone 4.
I don't remember getting it at all, but I open things so quickly and go through them. And
exactly. Anyway. Christmas morning. But it's interesting. But I'm reading more about this technology, and it is the more you read about it, the less interesting it gets. I think you really do need to have multiple MEs in order to just really get excited about it. It's a cool material, allows you to build strong things that are light and durable, but there's so many different things that fall into that category. If you do a search for this basic technology, you'll turn up, among other things, an incredibly long and $8 million looking commercial for, I think it's an Omega watch, about this technology, about this using this new fusion metal with the properties of liquid. And you're like, my God, they must be building like a new kind of like tank turret from it. And then it's like what they're building is a watch. And like, okay, so wow, so they must be building like the chassis for the watch. And then at the end, it's revealed that what all this mechanism has been doing is just, the numbers on that rotating ring. It's just the numbers, the way those numbers have been inlaid into that ring. They are made out of the liquid metal. And okay. That's great.
So much for that. Yeah.
Patent well spent.
Yeah. All right. I got another story that'll be of great interest to all Apple users. Internet Explorer turned 15 yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. When the cool new features is, oh, okay.
Just teasing you.
I would like to say that I'm kind of moving more and more away from Safari.
Chrome, baby. Don't you love Chrome?
I'm really enjoying Chrome, and here's what
Chrome and Safari are both WebKit, so probably there isn't that much difference.
I'll tell you what the difference is. You open up a movie on Safari nowadays, and you can't download it. You can't like save as source. They've kind of turned all that stuff off, And so, but you go up to Chrome and the little button's still there and you can download the stuff. And so I started using it for that. That's the reason I opened up Chrome, was specifically just to see if I could download a movie that was made to be downloaded. I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to steal something off the site. And Safari, you know, to protect us from, or protect content creators or whatever, now you can't do a basic operation in Safari. And so I just, once I started using Chrome, I was like, I don't really want to use Safari anymore.
Is there, I mean, really, it probably doesn't matter. I mean, Safari now has extensions, so probably not as rich a set of extensions.
I don't use that many extensions.
There's one called Chrome to Phone that most Apple people won't care about, but if you use an Android phone, you can use, and Chrome on Mac or Windows, you can send a, like I needed a map of somewhere I was going to go on Friday, so I used Chrome to Phone to send the map to the phone. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's the cool thing is that there's actually just a little phone icon in the upper right corner of the screen, and so it's context aware, so that if you just simply have an impulse that whatever I'm looking at right now, it would be useful if I had that on the phone. Yeah. And not only that, but it's not just like sending like a text link. What happens is that downstairs, if the phone was like in your car cradle, when you get down to the car, you will find that the Maps app has been launched. It is actually set to the point that you had created, and conceivably, it's also set to navigate to that point too.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat.
That's a sort of monopolies that work well for the users. When you have a company that not only makes the browser, makes the phone OS, and also makes the search infrastructure, you would hope that they would abuse their power in that kind of a way, as opposed to crushing dissidents.
That's the way to abuse your power, Google.
I'm okay with a dictatorship as long as it's a benevolent dictatorship.
Well, Apple could do it. I mean, there's no reason Apple couldn't do that. Right, on Safari.
You would, yeah.
Or somebody could even write an extension on Safari. The guy wrote it on an airplane. The guy who wrote it, who used his 20% Google time, he was on an airplane. He said, I love writing code. He was flying like to Asia, so it was like a 16-hour flight. He said, I love writing code on long plane flights because nobody bugs me.
Right.
So it's a good reason to go on a long plane flight.
I like it. When they say that they're going to start making cell phones, usable on the plane or the Wi-Fi, like, that's my quiet time.
Yeah. Now, Apple has Siri. I don't know if they've used Siri to do anything yet, but that's the natural language search engine that does cool things. Like you could say to your iPhone, book me a table for two at Della Fattoria, and if Della Fattoria has an open table account, it'll just kind of do it automatically. Google this week announced a similar kind of feature. They expanded the voice search, which is already in Android phones, to do things like navigate to, play a song. It's kind of like Fort Sync a little bit.
Right.
How is Apple going to take Siri and put it in the OS? What are they going to do? Or did they just get it for the engineers?
Well, I hope so. I mean,
it seems like a nice thing.
I mean, they have a little bit of that already in voice control. You can pick up and call mom, cell, and do you use that at all on your iPhone? Or you don't? Do you use that at all? The voice control on the iPhone?
Yeah, I try. Voice. Here's what in Android 2, the voice control. It takes too long to get started. It's like I'm impatient.
Right.
So when I'm driving, I use Sync, which is the same thing. But when I'm walking around, I just press the quick dial.
Right.
Right. Or I go to favorites and just do that. It's a lot. It seems to me that's what I.
Sometimes I just have it like I don't want to get out. I don't want to take my phone out of my pocket.
You don't want to talk.
I just push on the little thing and hear the clink.
So you do that.
So
you're wearing a Bluetooth
I wear this headphone.
You wear the Ademotics.
Yeah, these Ademotics.
And you press that twice. It does it.
I don't know. I just reach into I just hold onto my iPhone. I just don't want to pull it out and look at it and everything else. I just kind of go down and I go call Trish Cell.
Right.
That's my mom.
Yeah.
And,
that's like the Ford Sync thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
Andy, do you use the voice commands at all?
Not really on the iPhone, only because it's so easy to get the iPhone going. There's just one mechanical button that's easy to hit.
Right.
The only time I even consider using it is when it's on the car mount, because it's a safety issue.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you want to like change a track or something. With the iPhone, I think that it's simple enough that really the controls are already there on the screen. I can easily just reach up and tap it, and but just like change the station on my car radio. So I don't think it's a safety thing. On Android, there's so many difficulties in getting anything going, even when you're just standing still with the thing in your hand on the sidewalk, as opposed to operating a 1,500-pound vehicle. But I love these. I love Google's voice commands. The idea that you tap one mechanical button and say navigate to, and then give the name of the place, and I'll be damned, it will absolutely find the thing you want and get you there. It's the sort of thing where you can easily do it in 20 seconds at a stoplight, as opposed to I'm going to have to pull over to this parking lot and spend 2 minutes searching and then plugging something in from here to there. It really is a signature feature of Android.
Well, and I think that as we get into these interfaces, these kind of touch interfaces, and we're not typing everything in, I think that voice commands become more useful, and I think there's a lot of applications. If Apple was able to take that technology and make it really accessible to the app developers, there's a lot of cool things that could be done to be able to identify certain words. Because the thing is that like what Dragon does or Max Speech or whatever it does is very hard. Being able to work through thousands and thousands of words. But if you only have 100 commands that are possible, you can have bad audio and an accent and all kinds of other stuff, and it'll still figure it out because it doesn't have to pick through very much to do that. And but right now, I don't think it's that exposed to the app developers. I think we'd see a lot of cool applications if they did that.
Well, not only that, but I think that it's yet to be. I think the users have yet to demonstrate that they're really interested in that sort of feature. We've had really cool voice command technology for like a decade now, and it hasn't really popped up anywhere. And I think this is the first time that we've seen a mass consumer item that has at least decided, where the makers have at least decided that we're going to make this into an important feature. Whether then what we need to find out now is, are the people actually using it? Is that actually a way that people want to use this device or not?
I think the right applications would kind of pull people that way. I think trying to use their current applications that way doesn't make sense. But like, for instance, for me, if I could be doing my workout and just be able to yell out, yell out, 50 pounds and 12 reps, and it would keep track of it.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah.
It was like a Wi-Fi.
I think that's
you
just
still use the Y thing scale.
I do.
But the ability for it to track it, because I weigh myself every day, and so it tracks it, and I got this great little graph of my whatever. And the thing is being able to track it without having to write stuff down, without having to figure
it just does it automatically.
It just does it automatically. And so being able to have a workout where you had a schedule and be able to just call out that stuff without being all sweaty and trying to hit it, and that kind of thing would be really useful.
But it's the sort of thing where it needs to be a cultural shift. There was a time in which the idea of being someone who walks around holding a PDA in your hand and just at the street corner while they're walking, while you're doing this, while you're doing that, that sort of marked you as really just a marginal social outcast. But now that's
no, you're being honest. You
have to. I mean, people like us would say, well, why wouldn't we want to do this? I don't care what people think. It's actually a cool device and it's a great way to do things. You'd have to have that same sort of cultural shift for earpieces, where I just don't want to be the sort of person who has a thing in their ear every single moment, and anytime you're talking to somebody, you see this little blue light flashing and it says, okay,
weird.
I have maximum 20% of your attention right now, sir, and thank you for ending this conversation early. I think we need that same kind of a shift where either the microphones for this are integrated so well, or you have to train people to be a culture that wants to wear a headpiece wherever they go.
We're getting there. Bad news.
I have to try to always remind myself not to or to take my headset out, because I have a bad habit of listening to audiobooks or NPR or music or whatever, and I still have one in there because I'm answering the phone or whatever.
It seems antisocial when you walk around like that.
Well, I'm usually listening to it, actually.
I just like to tell you as your friend that it just seems a little creepy, frankly. Well, seems like you're not listening to me. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what my kids say to me all the time. But I have to admit, I walk around today I was at the gym. I was head down into the phone. And the trainer said, "You're gonna kill yourself one of these days. You better stop doing that." And I really forget that I do. And maybe more and more, we're all doing this. Live in our phone. I notice a lot of people walking around, whether they've got earbuds or not, but they're living in this phone as they walk around in life. The phone becomes their personal pal, their plastic pal.
Yeah,
it was easy to be with. Let's take a little break. We're talking about Macintosh and Apple. We haven't talked about Macintosh lately.
That's because there hasn't a lot happening.
There was a new Mac.
Yes.
Okay, well, there was our Macintosh conversation. We'll be back with more iPhone conversation, I guess, and iPad, too, in just a little bit. Alex Lindsay's here, Andy Ihnatko, I'm Leo Laporte, and, of course, we want to thank our friends at Squarespace for providing the wherewithal to make this show possible. We love Squarespace. I know Alex is using it like crazy. We're using it for our Inside Twit blog, and I got to get off my duff, because I want to move the radio show. It's one of the few platforms I really feel like I could move the radio show site to for a couple of reasons. One is their VPS technology makes it very, easy to add bandwidth as needed. You don't have to ask for it; it just happens. Right. And boy, when you have a site, a big commercial site, and you're worried about, oh boy, can I send a million radio listeners there? It's really nice to know you've got the Squarespace infrastructure behind you. Squarespace is both a web hosting company and a software company. So they do the content management system that you're running. And I tell you, that's the first thing you notice on Squarespace is how gorgeous it is and all the nice features, the ability to post via iPhone, the ability to import and export content from movable type, WordPress, TypePad, or Blogger.
I was just talking to a web developer, actually, someone who's done a lot of big websites, and he's kind of getting out of the business. And he said it's just that it's
too easy for people to do.
He said when people ask me now what they want to do, I say I just go to Squarespace.
Really?
And just build. Yeah, no. He said he said if you want a big site, you still want to develop it, but for small businesses, for individuals, for photographers, for when you just want to put it up, like for me with my blog, I don't have a big staff to work on my blog, and I just want it to be up, and I want to be able to edit things, and there's just nothing like Squarespace to do that.
Starts at $8 a month for the full deal, the full Monty, the community site, which gives you multiple editors and all sort, different audiences. I have to play with this audience idea. This is a new idea to me, that the different audience gets a different site in effect. $50 a month most, but here's the deal. If you use MacBreak as a promo code for the rest of your life, for the life of the site, you will save 10%. So, that's anywhere from 80 cents a month to $5 a month forever. Squarespace. Great designs, easy to use. You can get as deep or as shallow as you want and still have a great site. Why don't you give them a try? Go to squarespace.com/MacBreak to try it free for 15 days. No credit card needed. And if you decide to buy, use the coupon code MacBreak to save 10% off your fee for the life of the site, which is really, really awesome. Squarespace.com/MacBreak. So there's been a little kerfuffle going on, a little fighting over IAds. And whether it's a success, I think it's really a little too early to say whether it's a success or failure, but a lot of people are saying that there are few IAD campaigns, there are complaints about Apple. Are you surprised? Ruling on whether your creative is appropriate for the iPhone or not. They want it to look really great. I don't, look, I'm at the point now where I'm saying we all have a choice. And if you choose the Apple platform, it's because you buy the Apple way, which is aesthetic, elegant, full control by Apple so that they can preserve the user experience. That's just the way it is. If you make that choice, don't bitch about it.
Well, and I think that the other thing is that what Apple is looking at, I think appropriately to some degree, I don't know whether this is really going to work in the long term, but is that if a lot of bad ads come out in the IAD format, people will stop. It affects the entire network. That's the issue. Is that bad ads, affect the whole network, and makes it,
I have tight control over what we do on advertising. Yeah. It's appropriate,
right? And so I think that they want to make sure that and the advertisers that. And I have to go find the data. It was not in this Wall Street Journal article, but there is another report that says that the advertisers who have made it onto the platform, who have gotten through the gauntlet.
LA Times say that Nissan and Unilever, both of which ads I've seen, have been very happy.
So I think it's 5 or 6 times more likely that someone's going to click on that ad. And I think that that's what Apple's trying to move towards. And yeah, it's going to take longer to develop, and it takes 8 to 10 weeks, I guess, is what people are saying, to get your creative through the system.
It is a little weird to have to get the creative approved, but golly, I mean, it eliminates the punch the monkey stuff, the stupid stuff. I think I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, I don't either.
According to the LA Times, Nissan, which created a multi-layer interactive ad for its electric Leaf car, said customers spent an average of 90 seconds with the ad, 10 times longer than interaction times for comparable online ads, and people chose, as you said, to click 5 times more frequently than another online display.
And that Leaf ad was very, very effective for me.
But it was.
I'm buying one.
Are you? You're able to get one?
No, I put my money down.
Yeah. And by the way,
but it was after looking at that ad.
It's pretty subtle. It does not. It never. I was a little concerned because Steve talked about how we're going to serve 1 billion impressions, and it sounded like a lot of ads, and that we're going to be full screen. But they're small ads. If you don't click on them, they just sit there. Yeah. They don't bother me at all.
No.
Yeah, but see, the problem is that the Leaf ad is so effective because the ad agency seemed to build an entire app. It's like they built an entire iPhone application,
right?
Just to give you a fun. Well, whoever does. So not every advertiser is going to have the sort of budget or interest in doing that kind of a sophisticated, multi-leveled experience. They really just want to say, we've got photocopiers. They're on really good discount. We got them only for 2 weeks. Come and buy some. And they can't just get, well, here's a photocopier simulator. And here we can pretend to put your bum on the top of it and make a photocopy and send it to a friend. They just want to say, here, we have photocopiers. They're good photocopiers. They're inexpensive photocopiers. Please let us sell you photocopiers.
Well, I think Apple's trying to avoid having those types of ads on their network. I mean, I think it's just that to make it hard.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is that I think when we look at the Apple ads, the Old Spice ad, if every ad was like the Apple ads or the Old Spice ads, people would watch all the ads.
We would like ads.
Like we would be like when the Steelers aren't playing in the Super Bowl, the only reason that I watch is because of the ads. In fact, I just fast forward. I get behind, and I'm skipping the game. I just want to get to the next ad.
Let me get this straight, because if you're a developer of an iPhone app, you don't have to use iAds, do you? You could use another ad platform. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
So it's even better than you have to, Apple's way or the highway. You don't even have to choose iAds. But if you choose iAds, let me get this straight. Apple designs the ad?
They work with the company. They work with they build the ad. So they actually you work with their you can do the creative design, but they're going to build the whole thing into the iAd platform. You're not going to do anything.
Tony Bradley, writing in PC World, says he interviewed Gray Stripes, director of marketing, Dane Holowinski, said, quote, "The fact that they require HTML5 and design the ads themselves may prove problematic on the scaling side," and that's true. Agencies and advertisers often want to have control over the creative process, which Apple doesn't give them. Additionally, being on a single platform limits their ability to scale. You write an ad for the iPhone, that's it, iPhone and iPad. And there's a whole world out there besides iPhone and iPad. What advertisers want, says Holowinski, are audiences, not platforms. There are many millions of users Apple can't reach. They may be successful in filling a niche, but there will always be needs for other solutions to reach mobile audiences.
I think that's true.
And that's the competition, is Google's own AdMob, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Apple is going to be successful by defining their own version of the word success. It's not going to be by stealing an incredible amount of audience and influence away from Google AdSense. It's going to be by producing a brand new business to a brand new sector of advertisers that feel as though that they can do things with the Apple platform they can't do through Google.
Well, I think that the fact that these are high-quality ads makes them also much more. We're looking at building an app that when you can look at watch our content, and then you see the ad, showing up below it. Because what I know is that I don't do that at all. Like if you go to Pixelcore TV has one banner ad or whatever, but generally, like on the Pixelcore sites, on lots of, I've always been kind of anti-display ads. Like there's one display ad that we put up, and that was kind of that took me a couple of years to get to. But I feel comfortable. I don't want to give Google that control because I know I'll get all kinds of crazy ads that go in there. But if I give it to Apple, I know there'll be cool ads. There'll be cool manufacturers. There'll be cool ads. I know that when we added, for instance, iStock Photo as an advertiser a couple of years ago, I felt like their ad was better than our show.
Yeah,
it was like
that's not good.
But I was the thing is that I was like, but I was excited about putting that ad on. Because it was, it brought the production quality up rather than down. And I think that that's what these, provide an opportunity to do.
Loic Lemure, in his blog, he's a guy, seismic guy, says that a number of developers are moving away from paid apps to free apps. I mean, this is the key, I think. There's a ton of free apps on the Android side. Some say that's just because it's so hard to make it a paid app because there's, it's kind of a complicated situation. But others say, and there's even John Gruber even said maybe there's a conspiracy theory here that Google makes it hard to get a paid app because they'd love you to use ads and do ad-supported app.
Right.
Loic quotes some App Store revenue stats. It says Apple may have managed 5 billion application downloads and 1.5 billion in revenue through the end of June 2010, spread over 200,000 applications. But these aren't the important numbers. More relevant to the indie developer wanting to make a quick buck is the stat that 50% of paid applications, 50% receive fewer than 1,000 downloads, with an average price of $1.99 to $3.83. Depending on who's doing the calculation.
I think I'm actually surprised that number is that high.
50%.
Oh no,
So 50% are making $2,500 per app or less.
Yeah, but I mean that when you look at any mass market, when you're talking, I mean the music market, for instance,
it's always
before
that way.
it's 2%, 3%. Yeah. I mean, look at podcasts. There's 60,000 podcasts, but 90% of all of the people are watching 10% of them.
Right. So there is a drive. If you can you make more money, you think, in advertising based apps?
I don't know. I think it's just a different model. I think if you look at your audience and say that it's big enough that I think ads can serve it, I look at it as just another way to generate revenue. I don't look at it as an either-or kind of thing. You can make a free version that's ad-supported and that introduces people to your technology, and then a paid version that doesn't have any ads.
Loic says people are making 10 to 30 cents per user per month on average.
On the advertising?
On the advertising. So that might just pay for a developer.
30 cents per user per month?
10 to 30 cents.
Boy, I need to do that. Oh man!
Yeah, I'm multiplying 30
for us.
cents
That's a
times
lot of money.
10,000 users. Yeah,
that's more than we're making on our advertising now. I mean, if you think about the Twit network and how big it is.
Yeah, well, if we could get millions of users, you're happy. So, do you think then, because of this, that if they make IAds a little more accessible, if Google's AdMob continues to do well, that eventually most apps will be free? No,
I think it just depends on the market.
I think that'll definitely come into like the fun and the wacky apps. But if you're taking out your iPhone to do something productive, you don't want part of your screen being given up to even to see high profile ads from the Body Shop or whatever. So I don't think that they'll change the ecosystem that much. And
I think there's no question that apps are important. We just Goldman Sachs just said that the new BlackBerry, the Torch with its BlackBerry operating system 6 and its beautiful screen is kind of a flop. That every store has plenty of stock. They're not sold out by any means. Whereas both Apple iPhones, they're hard to get, and the top of the line Android phones like the Droid X and the Sprint Evo, very hard to get. And if you ask me, what's the difference? It's apps, isn't it? Between BlackBerry, Android, and iPhone, it's apps. If you don't have a very robust app application interface,
well, I think we're very quick. This is something you guys were touching on Twit on Sunday, but I think that we're moving very, very quickly towards an internet-enabled but non-web environment.
Yeah, which really scares the hell out of me. I mean, that's what the Google Verizon thing's all about.
I guess what I'd argue. Well, no, but I mean, regardless of Google and Verizon, regardless of that, what they're doing,
it's a gated
It's a tower of Babel. And it's
a gated community. It's a
theirs is there. But what I'm saying is regardless of net neutrality, what you're looking at is people are moving away from the web. They're moving more and more into this. Like I'm not looking at when I'm looking at our I'm not on the web looking at our articles. I'm in Reader. On my iPad, looking at the articles.
Right.
I'm accessing the internet.
No, that's what I do too.
And database. What I'm not doing is necessarily using the.
I almost always browser. Though when I use I take it back. When I look at an article, I almost always go to the web page of the article.
But if I listen to NPR, I'm listening from the NPR app. I'm not going to the NPR.
Not on the
website.
No. But I'm saying when I use Reader or I even use Pulse or Flipboard, I will almost always press that web button, partly because I want to bookmark it on Delicious, but also because I want to read the full thing or I want to Instapaper the full thing.
But you're still doing it from within this application.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If you're launching a WebKit interface from the application, you are surfing the public net at that point. What's the difference?
No, you're surfing the net, but what I'm saying is that we're not following the same browser rules that we had before. Like when I have Reader.
What it is we have a dozen browsers now. Every application has its own browser built in, but that's still, at least on the iPhone and the iPad, that's still Safari.
But it changes the model, for instance, with advertising, because like when you're in Reader and you're reading the articles, there's no ads.
Well,
there can be ads.
That depends on the RSS, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Depending on how
as always, you just have to adapt your business model and adapt your ad mechanism to however people are actually reading your content.
Right.
And if anything, if Google Reader gives you greater access and greater access to readers, then that's got to be a good thing. You have to learn how to adapt.
And I think the fundamental question, and this is that Google Verizon question again, is, are these apps going to channel people away from the public web? Are you going to start having your full experience of the internet within an app instead of web surfing? I know what you're saying.
I think that's the case. I think
that's not a good thing, because I think the link economy, the free and open web, all of those things are really kind of important. If I create a Leoville, blog, that's a website, I guess. To Andy's point, I don't mind if people read it on Reader, but I do want people to go to the page.
I guess my issue is...
It seems like the lingua franca of sharing links between any two services and any two apps is still going to be the actual website. It's just not possible. It's not easily possible for me to recommend someone's webpage to somebody else via Twitter and send them into Google Reader. It has to send them to the actual webpage itself. So given that so much of the money that you can make on the web these days is based on the ability to create something that lots of people are going to link to and share from every social media site out there, that immediate web page is still going to be the most important atom of getting brand new users. Now, getting people to keep coming back, that's always going to be the province of making sure that people can access your content any way that they want, whether it's through Google Reader, whether it's through a dedicated app, whether it's through making sure that your robots.txt file will allow apps like Flipboard right in. But it will always be your first face and your first interaction with a brand new reader is always going to be through your actual web page.
No, here's the question, and I'm not saying that this is good or bad because I don't know, but what I do think is this is the trend, which is that also if you look at for instance, Rupert Murdoch doesn't want to give away free content. Aren't they going to use the web to pull people towards them, and then once they get you, they want to pull you into a private area that is separate from the web, that is moving you out of that system. Like we might find out about these applications online, but then are we going to be more likely to use the applications within away from the web? And I do think that it's a dangerous thing, but I think that also the web is as someone who has to develop for it. I mean, our entire business sits on the web is frustrating. Trying to deal with the lowest common denominator of every web browser is part of what makes it people like me want to write applications.
Yeah, but actually, that's a really good example that you cite because Wall Street Journal is probably the biggest and most famous newspaper that went behind a paywall. But their philosophy has always been that you have to get behind a paywall to get to our front page and to navigate using our site structure. If you want to send readers to any one of our articles, be our guest by all means. Here's an open link because if you link to an individual article, or if you follow a link to an individual article, that's not going to cost anybody any money. And ideally, what their very smart idea is that hopefully someone will get that free content recommended by a friend. They'll start wondering what else. This is the third or the fourth really cool Wall Street Journal article that I've seen. Maybe it's going to be worth subscribing for a month to see how well it goes. But yeah, I mean, part of this will tie into my pick of the week this week. But I think part of the new reality of publishing in the 21st century is you have to let go of the idea that you can control the presentation to your readers. That's possible in some avenues, but if it is possible to to always be thinking in terms of we're just going to make the content as flexible and reflowable as possible, so that no matter what device and what application this user is going to be reading it on, they can make that choice and read it wherever they want. That's going to give you more power than simply saying, we're going to have to let's add something to robots.txt to make sure that unless you get to load in our fonts and our pictures and our format, you're not allowed to see our pictures.
Byron in the chat room says I'm conflating open with HTTP versus other IP protocols. And no, it's not about the protocol level. It's at the content level. And it's Virginia Heffernan wrote a now become very famous article in the Sunday Times about 2 months ago, in which she said apps are like the gated community of the internet versus the downtown, which is the web, the free-flowing web. And she says, yeah, on the free-flowing web, things happen. You get bums, you get bars, you get fights, you get weird stuff happening. The apps put you in this gated community where the experience is controlled. Flipboard's a very good example. It's a beautiful, safe experience. There's no porno here. Version of the internet, and
give me 10 seconds. I'll give you a version of Flipbook that has lots of porn.
I guess you're right. You could follow a porn star list. You'd get it all, wouldn't you? Yeah,
Flipboard's a bad example because it really wasn't designed, nor is it suited to be the one app that you read everything in. It's the one app that collects all your links in.
You
still have to go to the actual website in order to read the actual article.
Let's say the USA Today app on the iPad, for instance, or the BBC app. That would be a better. You're right. That'd be a better gated community example. And I think that's a legitimate point. And I think it's bad for I believe it's bad for the internet if we start living inside these apps instead of.
But do you find yourself using more and more of these apps to gather that information? To
an interesting thing has kind of happened to me, and I'm curious if other people have. I was a big iPad proponent, and I still believe the iPad, it's clear from sales numbers, is a huge breakthrough in computing. But I find myself more and more going back to my MacBook. Going more and more. I feel like the functionality is constrained. I feel like my wrists are tied a little bit in this app environment, and I find myself using the notebook more and more. Cut and paste.
That's the big thing.
Delicious. Well, for instance, I bookmark a lot of stories on Delicious for this show and other shows.
Right.
What I do is I select a salient paragraph from it.
Right.
I hit puka, and all of that stuff is very easy to do on a notebook computer. Much, much harder to do. It's just a few extra steps, but it's a pain.
A live bookmark doesn't work for you?
It does, but then it opens up the Delicious interface, and then I have to copy and paste into it using the very awkward to get this salient paragraph thing in. I have to cut and paste. It's just easier. Email, a lot of things for me have become easier going back to the notebook. Now maybe I'm just an old, it could very well be I'm a dinosaur, that I'm not
I find myself when I'm doing research for the shows, I find myself back on my laptop because I can't it is the same thing.
Productive work seems difficult. It's easy for me to farm on the iPad.
But that's really, I mean, that just goes to show that the iPad was always designed to be something other than a notebook and something other than a netbook. I mean, because they're like this morning, I was reading up for the show and also catching up on news. And typically, I've got my lovely brisket sandwich left over from last night. But my soda, I'm on the table. I really don't. Now I'm at the point after 6 months that I don't really want to do that on my notebook. I want to hold this in my hand and have this lovely sheet of paper in front of me because it's a much better reading device and a much better interactive device than the notebook is. I don't. It's also okay for content creation, but I really think that it has been farmed out its own special niche in your order of battle, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, it comes back to what I said originally about the iPad. When I first saw it and came out, I always thought of it as a consumption device, almost a personal TV. It works very well at that level. It's a little tough to create with it, and you can do it. And obviously, Apple believes, given that they've got pages and numbers and Keynote on here, believes that this is a productivity tool, and certainly other people have put a lot of productivity apps on it. But, for instance, OmniFocus. I use OmniFocus. It's so much easier for me to use it on the notebook and have this be a read-only version of on the iPad and the iPhone.
Right.
Yeah, the iPad definitely does demonstrate the limitations of any one-window interface, especially when it's a one-window interface that doesn't even let you tile windows. There are a lot of things for which you do need to have two things open at the same time. I've been looking at word processors over the past week, both ones that have already been released and ones that are coming up, and thinking that, I hate to say this, but if we had the ability to have one narrow column in landscape mode, one narrow column on the side that I could, at my own option, put in any Twitter feed of my choice, Google Reader of my choice, like any two iPhone apps, let's say, stacked one on top of the other in one narrow column and still be running an iPad application in the other side, that would solve 90% of any of my remaining complaints about the iPad. But it is designed to be, I think, a different user experience.
Yeah, that's what, and it's frankly, let's say this is the appeal of it to a lot of people, including older people, people who are not computer enthusiasts, people who just want to consume.
People who don't want to use the web. They just want to get whatever they want, whatever they're interested in.
I guess that's the point of apps. I'm kind of expanding this app argument that really that's the point of apps too. That I'm starting to feel more, and this is actually something I've noticed in the last few months, more and more anachronistic, more and more like the old school computer user, and less of the modern app-consuming iPad user.
Right. But I mean, like this is a good example. This is Epicurious.
I love that site. We plugged it on iPad today. It's a beautiful site.
And the thing is that it's their application. I use their application all the time in the kitchen because I don't want to deal with all the other stuff. I just want that gives me the interface to their information.
It's a beautiful cookbook.
And the thing is that I find that I do want them to have control over how that works and how it looks. It's
just as a cookbook would. You wouldn't expect a cookbook to have the vast universe of recipes in it. You have the vetted recipes and how to make them. But what's interesting about that Epicurious application is they apparently consciously made the decision not to link back to your epicurious.com account. You can have an account there, save recipes, do all sorts of stuff. It doesn't link to it.
Interesting. Well, I like the fact that they designed it. For me, this is a lot of the difference between the Winnie the Pooh app that comes with the iBooks and the Dr. Seuss books that you can buy on iTunes. I talked about the Dr. Seuss stuff last week. It is my son is crazy about the Dr. Seuss books. And part of it
is a cool book.
Well, they're coming out one after another. Where I'm going to have all the Dr. Seuss on an iPad that he can sit there and go through. And the thing is, but that shows you the advantage of designing something from scratch. Not just saying the text is going to flow anyway. It's going to flow, and the images are going to be wherever they're going to be. you know, it is a designed, a curated experience of Dr. Seuss, which, to be honest with you, is better than the book. I mean, you know, and that's the thing that I think that's the opportunity that I think some developers are starting to see of developing their own applications for.
Well, and then I'm going to channel my friend Jeff Jarvis here, who's the keeper of the keys of the link economy and the open internet. And I think he sees content creators flocking to the iPad because it's a way to hold on to their old-fashioned model of you buy this bundle of stuff, it's ours, it doesn't interact with anything else, and you can't be stolen and all of that stuff. And he's worried about that.
Yeah, not only that, but the idea that the creator cannot possibly be the creator of everything, that you still need to have the full support of a designer, an editor, a layout guy, a copy editor. Right. You still need this big team of people to produce something that will correspond as a professional thing, as opposed to the EPUB dichotomy, which is essentially that if you have the sort of determination and insanity necessary to write a 60 to 100,000 page novel, you probably also have the determination and insanity necessary to produce a very professional looking EPUB all on your own. And even if you are hiring a couple of outside artists to do things that you want, it's still well within the limitations of a one-person publishing shop.
But doesn't that work really well when you're talking about largely text information? The problem is that, you know, I still think that we're moving more and more towards interactive, you know, much more visual components that are going to take some design, that are going to take some content creation, that are not going to be just the author. I mean, when we look at the future of all of the education stuff that we're working on here in Africa and with a bunch of school systems, is that we're not looking at anything that's just raw text, you know, and everything has to be built from the ground up, and nothing is built on any of these things that can format it any which way, because that's fine. It's a great way to, it's a great storage, you know, it's a great compression technology, but when you actually want to increase the speed at which people are, you know, acquiring that information, that mass market approach might not be the most effective.
See, I'm not sure that anybody, this is going to sound glib, but I'm absolutely serious here. I'm not sure that anybody currently over the age of 20 has the ability to define that revolution, because we've had the web now 2 generations of people.
Exactly. That's what I'm feeling like. Yeah.
Yeah. And 2 generations of people who have been growing up with lots of experience with the web, and we're still designing things that are basically, here is, instead of this article being 300 pieces of paper, it's about 10 infinitely scrolling things that go down, and there are things in the sidebars, but it's still a very traditional method of defining content and delivering it. I think that we're gonna, nobody who is not in college right now, you need someone who's not in college yet who will figure out how to make it in such a way that it's not where that high level of interactivity doesn't feel like making a movie in 3D. Great, you've used technology, great, it's different, but it's not necessarily more effective than what people have been doing so far. Someone has really got to crack that and totally redefine it. I don't think it's going to be anybody now.
You know, Leo, you need to take that special you did. You know,
did you see that with my daughter and her friends, Brian Wong and
I think that should be a regular show, because
I think we're going to do it because it's these people who are 21 and younger.
My daughter's 15, and she can give you an incredible breakdown.
We'll do it.
She'll look at the sites and she'll go, well, this doesn't work here, and I don't like the way this interacts. And
it's always been my thought that just like the printing press for the first few generations after Gutenberg invented movable type, they just did the same thing they always did. They made more Bibles. And it took a generation or two growing up with printed materials to say, oh, you know, we could do novels, we could do plays, we could do Luther's 100, how many theses did he have? Theses. And it changed the world. It created the Protestant Reformation and a whole lot more because it took a couple of generations. I think the internet's going to be the same. That it's only until the kids who grew up, as my daughter did, from birth on, with the internet, those are the ones who are going to define it, not us. Because I see it as radio. You see it as a film. And he might see it as a newspaper. We see it through the lens, the prism of our consciousness. So I think we will do that. 100 theses, and he nailed them to the door, I know. But afterwards, he printed them and distributed them to the world thanks to Gutenberg. So it's Gutenberg's fault. Blame Gutenberg for that mosque. No, I'm sorry. I forget I said anything.
We were so far away from that. People had completely forgotten about that.
I'm watching too much MSNBC. I'm sorry.
Why are you filled with self-loathing? The success that's coming to you, Leo, is earned. You don't need to sabotage yourself.
I'm trying to burn it to the ground.
Enjoy it. Exactly.
I don't want to be successful. I don't. So I'm going to do another commercial. That'll chase him away. Let's talk about now. See what I did there? See, now the advertiser's going, why'd you say that, Leo? Why, Leo? What's wrong with you? I'm wearing a Tech TV t-shirt. That's why. Yes, another.
Proving that you're a survivor, Leo.
No, another company I burnt to the ground, actually.
Exactly. But you're
It
the
was
guy.
all Leo's fault.
I'm the
guy
cockroach that made it.
Putting on the sunglasses, walking away from the fire in slow motion towards the camera through the shimmery hate mirror. See, that's you.
That's my favorite part of that movie, The Other Guys, with Will Ferrell as the stupid cop, where he gets blown up. And he says, "Why in the movies do they always run away from explosions and survive? That's very irresponsible." Okay. Can I mention Go to My PC? These great folks at Citrix deserve better than me, I know. Go to My PC. I've used this for years. We have it on a lot of our systems. It allows you to access your computer from anywhere. Now, for many of us, we don't work 9 to 5. We work around the clock. An idea comes to you. You have a little spare time. You want to finish a project, or just clear that inbox before you have to come into work. The worst thing is to go on vacation and know you've got 20,000 emails waiting for you when you could log in to Go to My PC and delete half of them. Just, because I know I don't need those. It's not like you're working 24/7. It's like you're working smarter. And when you're on the road and you need that PowerPoint or Keynote slide, boy, it sure is nice to be able to go to GoToMyPC.com, log in securely. Even in a sketchy internet cafe in Rwanda, you could log in. Not that there are any of those, Alex Lindsay. We know Rwanda is a fine, fine place.
Not a lot of sketch there.
No sketch.
It's kind of surprisingly
Kathmandu. I'll say it's Kathmandu.
Well, I've used this in India.
You probably use it all over the world.
Yeah, and it works great.
It's amazing. I mean, and by the way, now fully Mac compatible. They've actually designed a Mac client from the ground up. They know that Mac people, we demand a little bit more aesthetically. You could try it for 30 days free, Mac or PC. In fact, it's kind of cool because you can run a Mac from a PC. It's the only way I know that you could run Mac applications on a PC is using Go to My PC, unless you Hackintosh it, right?
Right.
Go to mypc.com/MacBreak. Will give you a 30-day free trial, unlimited. Use it as much as you want, as often as you want, as long as you want, for 30 days free. Go to mypc.com/MacBreak. We thank Citrix for their support. I'm going to have lunch with the Citrix guys on Friday in Los Angeles, and they can spank me then. I think this is a great conversation about computing, about the young and their take on it versus. And I'm really starting to feel like the guy who I remember Ziploc bagged software. I remember user group meetings. And that world is slowly going away. And when I see a TV show like Big Bang Theory, which I know you love, and it's celebrating geeks, I almost feel like it's an anachronism because those geeks, the AV squad geeks, they don't exist anymore. That's an old notion. We're all
but they
become
the make generation.
That's exactly right, and it's cool.
Yeah,
it's Adam Savage, right? Yeah. It's cool.
I mean, what I think is interesting is that it's never been easier just to be a content recipient, to just kind of surf through things, but it's also never been easier to do it yourself because there's so much information. There's so many guides and
so can we promote that? Can we say, look, it's great to have an iPad. It's a wonderful world. You can watch TV, Hulu Plus. You can watch now. This is really a personal TV. You could go and veg out, but let's also encourage creation. If we all create, then there's so much more better stuff in there.
It's a lot more fun.
Well, that'll always be one of the greatest levers of technology. Yep. The ability for anybody to simply put work out there and to grow and find its own audience. If there's one big benefit that I don't think anybody can really argue against, it's going to be that ability to simply fail on your own terms and not fail because you couldn't convince an agent to represent your manuscript or a publisher then to listen to your agent and then move forward for their failing on your own terms. Can't speak enough of it.
Yep.
I've done a lot of that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You failed on your own terms? Well, it's better than failing on somebody else's terms, I guess.
But still not as good as succeeding because you caved into commercial interests.
Yeah. Ooh, that's bad.
You'd rather succeed on your own terms.
Right.
But if I could succeed or fail, succeed because someone said, here's an idea that's totally commercial, but you'll make $1 million, I'd probably just good.
So you're like me. We eschew phony success. We celebrate and embrace success on our own terms.
I think it's more stable.
However meager and sad our lives may be as a result.
Hey, you know what? I am buying name brand cola beverages. That's
wow,
that's how good I'm doing. It's the store brand I stopped buying 2 years ago. So,
okay.
Thank you, readers.
Poster boy for making it on my own terms, Mr. Andy Ihnatko.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, moving right along. I'm sure there's some other stories that I'm missing. Did you see this is actually not really a Mac story, but very funny. Will Wheaton is part of the Wootstock. You know about Wootstock, right, guys? Hmm? And you saw the fake Elise who quit her job. Will quits Wootstock with a whiteboard. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm quitting Wootstock. Wait a minute. Don't go all run around saying he's quitting. No, I've learned a lot over the past year, and I'm going to miss everyone except for you, Storm, of Paul and Storm. Wait, guys, hold on a second. Photo booth doesn't need effects. Bonjour from Paris, biatches. I'm flying. I'm on a boat. Shut up, Wesley. I love this one. That's Will Wheaton saying, shut up, Wesley. Anyway, he's saying working with Storm has been like living in, this must be some Star Wars reference, a Sarlacc pit.
Yes, that would be the pit in Return of the Jedi into which Boba Fett fell and either died or did not die or escaped, depending on your...
Was eaten by the giant worm.
It depends on whether you believe the novels are canon or non-canon.
And how come you're not at Celebration 5 after all?
Because...
Go ahead.
Oh, because my Jaren Sin costume didn't come back from the table.
I know that feeling, boy. You have violated Wheaton's law consistently, and it's only gotten worse over time. Look, I made a graph. Storm's dickishness over time. See? That's science, man. Plus, you spilled beer on my Munchkin cards. Wait a minute. Then Storm gets in there. And it's actually very funny. If you want to see it, it's at the Woodstock site. And Woodstock is coming. I'm going to give them a free plug just for that. September 16th and 17th at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. Paul and Storm, Will Wheaton, Adam Savage. In fact, Adam comes in at the end of that. I should just mention from Mythbusters. Let me go down. There's Paul. There's Storm. The fighting goes on. This is like the longest whiteboard dialogue. Then Adam Savage at the end. You're all fired. Very, very cute. But that's not news, is it?
Close.
Dilbert made fun of Steve Jobs today.
Did he really? What'd he say?
It's the pointy-haired boss announced that I've decided that I'm going to walk. I'm going to hang on. I think I got it right here. I've decided that I'm going to walk around wearing a black turtleneck sweater and old man jeans from now on. How do I look? And the secretary says, "You look like I'm sure this is a euphemism. You look like a juice bag." And said, "What do you mean by that?" And she says, "What answer will get me back to watching Hulu on my PC faster?" Oh,
see, Dilbert, he is geeky. Also, I mentioned Big Bang Theory. Woz is going to make a guest appearance on that, isn't he, Andy? I think he is.
Yep. They announced that at Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago.
That's pretty exciting. Also announced at Celebration 5, Star Wars Blu-ray, all 6 movies.
I can't wait.
Okay, but not the original versions.
But not the canon versions. Yeah,
right, exactly. The edits. Although I did get pretty excited. They have some unseen footage, and at this point, if there's any footage anywhere related to that movie that I've not seen before, I'm going to play that 13 times in a row. So there's a cut scene from Return of the Jedi, right, where Luke is now a Jedi and he officially finishes building his lightsaber, which is the last thing you need to do to get your Jedi patch or whatever.
He's got his badge now. He's got the whole banner is full now.
I want to say something though to my fellow geeks who attend conventions. Now this was the video that I saw was of course shot like from the crowd, like at the screen, like when it was being shown during the convention. Realize that there were like all kinds of flashes going on during that presentation. And if there's any group of people, Star Wars geeks should know that the flash is not going to help you at all. You should put the camera off of automatic and put it onto manual.
I hate it when they do that.
Ruining everything for everyone, you big jerky jerk.
I just know. I get if one of my parents did that, okay. If one of my aunts did that, that's okay.
Know this.
My cousin who's a potter, I can understand that. But we're Star Wars geeks. We understand how digital cameras work. We understand how light bounces from here to there, back onto an image sensor, and produces an image. We should be better than that. That's all I'm saying. I'm appealing to your.
It's not even digital. I went to a Neil Diamond concert 20 years ago. People are there's flashes like crazy. All you're going to get is a well lit back of the person's head in front of you.
But it's well lit.
But it's well lit.
It's a little overexposed.
That was even worse, because that's when like people had to like actually pop in a flash bulb or something.
Right, it was. It was that long ago. Oh, I am.
At least the current generation can complain. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot it was an automatic, and of course the automatic feature turned on the flash. I'm so sorry. I'll turn that back off again. Right. Some guy paid 89 cents to like take a flash photo of the back of someone's head.
When is this knowledge going to permeate into our culture that a flash at a large event, well, if you're more than 10 feet away, don't use the flash, basically, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe
I'm a big fan of even if you're within 10 feet, don't use the flash.
Well, I don't like the flash at all. Yeah, but not everyone has a f1.2
then you should.
Lens, my friend.
Doesn't everybody?
Then you should, he says. That's his answer. Why not? Apple, Papermaster leaves. Apple takes the fall for AntennaGate. You probably covered that last week. Okay. Yeah. Did you cover the Apple mid-level Apple employee who was busted for
kickbacks?
Taking kickbacks from suppliers? I think you know him.
I might have met him. I actually might have met him.
On an airplane.
Yeah, we were talking about stuff.
I asked Lisa Bettany if she would care to comment on the Camera Plus fiasco.
What happened?
She wouldn't comment.
All I can say is they already made a lot of money.
Okay, well here's what happened. They had a feature in one of the early betas in which, I mean,
it does it now. I tried the URL.
I know I can't remember where I put my phone to make sure I wouldn't be distracted by it. So it repurposes one of the volume buttons to take the place of the shutter buttons. You can hold it like a regular camera and just click the shutter like that. It got refused initially by the by Apple because you're not supposed to. The volume button is supposed to be a volume button. It's not supposed to do anything else.
Even if you're using a camera that doesn't have any reason to use the volume.
Exactly. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Now I think there's sort of unfortunate behavior on both sides. So the Camera Plus folks said, okay, we are going to resubmit it without that feature, and without telling Apple. They actually included it as an Easter egg. So that feature is still in there. What you have to do is you have to plug in a special URL into Safari that sort of sends a command to Camera Plus that says, oh, by the way, activate your super secret camera button shutter feature. And Apple's, when they found out about that, pulled the app again saying, we thought we were clear before. We didn't say make it a super top secret feature that we wouldn't find out about. We said remove that feature, and now we're removing your software. What we don't know, and this is why I called Lisa, is who removed it. Do we know that Apple removed it? It could be, tap, tap, tap. These guys are brilliant marketing guys. It could very well be that TapTap said, well, we'll pull it out. And by the way, Andy apparently enabled it. Right.
So the way you do it is you go to Safari on your iPhone and you type in Camera Plus : / which is a URL you probably never see.
Well, that's a really cool piece of functionality in the operating system where a URL that is activated through Safari can actually send information to another application.
Right. I mean, that's been around for a while. You could type pcast : / on your Mac and it'll launch iTunes, things like that.
So it knows how to hand stuff off to other apps.
Right, right.
I just don't know like who to back with this. In that
they clearly violated. This is going to go back to the conversation that I had at the beginning, which is you live in the Apple universe.
Right.
You get a lot of benefits. You got to go with Apple's design. This is your developer agreement. Apple's design principles say thou shalt not modify the hardware buttons to do something unpredictable, because we want users to know when you turn a volume up and down, it turns volume up and down, not takes a picture. I think that's reasonable to insist on, and they violated it.
Well, to me, the big deal is that they were told specifically, here's why we refused, or excuse me, if I understand the story correctly, that they were told specifically not to put that feature in, and they decided to sneak it in. So that makes it, okay, I don't know how put upon you can feel if Apple does something you don't like. But the important counter argument is that Apple has a good point to make, that they want to make sure that people are not writing applications so that the volume button does something that the user doesn't expect it to do. But the way that this feature is activated, you have to know this URL. You have to choose to activate it. So you know for a fact at this point, this isn't accidental. You know at this point that after having done that multiple step process, this volume button in this application will now double as a shutter button. So I think that Apple really, if Apple were a different company, I would be saying, oh, they should give them a mulligan on this one. It's okay for I feel as though it's okay to curate the experience, but as with the Android platform, the best solution is to put an option someplace buried deep inside settings that says, give me the ability to screw up my phone if I want to screw up my phone.
I'll tell you why they don't do it. Because there were those flashlight apps that you can enable with an Easter egg. You can enable tethering. Yeah. Right. And if it's a slippery slope because you have to make the argument, oh, well, this one's okay because people did it on purpose. By the way, the URL, and here it is on screen, is CAMPLUS, CAMPLUS, / enable volume snap, all one word. Enable volume. And there's, by the way, disable volume snap also works. So you can turn it off. This is Daniel Dilger's Uneasy Silence blog.
And all I got to say is, don't you wish you had bought that application?
I did, and I have it, and it works.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I did it.
So if you ever hear about these kind of things
now.
happening with these applications, you have to go get it. The whole sales thing.
So they tweeted it. Tap, tweeted it, pulled the tweet. But, of course, once stuff's tweeted, it's out there in the real world. And I cannot blame Apple. I cannot fault Apple at this point.
No, I can't. I mean, also, there's a reason why a secret is called a secret. It's because it's a secret. If it's not a secret, then it stops being a secret. Sounds like a tautology, but it actually is not.
And if look, if you want a shutter button, you can go to another phone. And that's kind of what Jobs has said over and over again in those emails is, look, this is how we do it. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Now, that's, by the way, why I use an Android phone. I went somewhere else. I happen to have a camera button on my Android phone. I like it.
It doesn't work, but hey, at least it's
it
there.
takes an hour to do anything, but it happens. No, it works. It works pretty well. It's it's funny. It's not an ideal way to use the phone, but it does work. Look, I'll show you. See, you press it. 1, 2, 3, 4. You press it again. Then it says, okay, I have a couple of camera applications on here, which this is the difference, right? This is the Android experience. Okay, yeah, you wanted to use a camera, no problem, but would you like to use a camera or this other application? Now, I could say from now on, but maybe I want to leave that open. All right. From now on, I want to use that application. This is, it's called choice.
And now your child has decided to just jump off the diving board without you.
Yeah, long ago, by the way. Long ago. And now I press the button. 1, 2. There it goes. That took a picture. That wasn't so bad. Here, let me take
Cheryl,
one.
Cheryl, it's your Uncle Leo. I'd like to have your 7th birthday party again.
One more time, Cheryl. I took the picture. It wasn't so bad. That wasn't too long.
And will listeners be able to put a watch when they're watching this tomorrow? Just put a stopwatch on between the time when he pushed that button.
Yeah. But from now on, I think because I chose an application. Let's see. Okay, now I'm back in the home page. Press the button. 1, 2, 3. Okay,
3.
Okay, screw you.
5, 6, 7,
press it again.
8, 9, 10.
Nice.
10 seconds, not bad.
In my defense, the iPhone's not exactly instant either. It's not 10 seconds, but it's not exactly instant. Go ahead. Let's see. Go ahead. Presses the camera button.
Yeah.
And now it's
3
ready.
seconds, yeah.
So 3 or 4 seconds. So it's, look, if you're taking, get a real camera if you really want to take pictures.
To me, the fair test is I have a camera button that is designed to take a picture when I press the camera button. Here is the camera button on the iPhone. Ready? 1001. Oh, it took the picture.
No,
I pressed the camera button.
It does that once it's launched.
This does that too on this. The issue is, and I never liked this, that it's a soft button on the screen. So if you're pointing, you have to remember where it was. If you want to take a picture of yourself, you have to, and it's just kind of, it's nice to have a physical button. I understand why Camera Plus tried to enable a physical button. I understand why Apple said no, that's a foul. They pulled them from the store. They've made $500,000, and to Apple's credit, that's Apple saying, okay, we're not going to make any more money because they made $130,000 or whatever on the thing.
I think it was like $250,000.
Yeah,
they did okay. They did okay when we're talking about average.
$500,000 in the first month was the final amount.
Oh, really?
$500,000 in sales, I guess.
I hope Lisa got a big check.
She says she did. I talked to her.
She's happy.
She didn't say how much, but she said she's very happy. Her lifestyle has changed. So I like that. Now remember, she was living on nothing for a while. So I just
well done. Well done.
I just have to say. This is the way it is. We can bitch about IAds. We can bitch about, App Store. We can bitch about that stuff, and I certainly do.
And the reality is, it's not like they lost money on it. I mean, they did okay. Sure, they got cut off. They'll do something else.
Now, that's something we can do something about. And AT&T has now warned in a 10Q filing with the SEC that exclusivity of certain popular handsets is eliminated. And now, well, there's more because the Wall Street Journal now is again reporting that they hear that Verizon will have the iPhone in January, I would say that at this point we can pretty much say this is for sure.
Of course, I just got a new. That's why AT&T gave us the $18 upgrade so that we would get our phone quickly before anyone realizes that they could get a new phone somewhere else.
I think it's interesting. All right, we're gonna do our. That's it. That was the Flash round. Oh, speaking of Flash, you mentioned that the FTC is investigating Apple's Flash.
We did.
Yeah. Okay.
And we agreed that nothing will probably happen.
Nothing will happen. By the way, the camera on the iPhone is better than the camera on almost any other phone any phone I've ever used. I can't think of a phone where it's
awesome.
anywhere close to. Even though it's only 5 megapixels, it's still the colors are truer. It's crisp. It looks great. It really is a great camera on the iPhone. So there. You happy now?
Do you use the MMS feature very much?
I haven't made you cry yet, so I really want to see you cry.
Oh, you made me cry. You've made me cry.
Oh no,
I'm
talking about other than my performance on this show.
This is kind of
nobody else that's always home with no friends on Tuesday afternoon. We're stuck with them.
According to the report, this isn't really a Mac story, but it is going to affect the iPhone, I guess. Maybe. Music labels and radio broadcasters agree.
Oh, this is stupid. Oh, my God.
The Congress...
When you hear that, all you have to do is you have to just hear that first thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, the dinosaurs have all gotten together by the tar pit, and they said that everyone must jump in.
And that's it. And they say that Congress should mandate that all phones, PDAs, and other portable electronics must have an FM radio.
Right.
The Consumer Electronics Association response: the backroom scheme of the National Association of Broadcasters and the Recording Industry Association of America to have Congress mandate broadcast radios and portable devices, including mobile phones, is the height of absurdity. Gary Shapiro, I love Gary. He says, such a move is not in our national interest. You might as well put a mosque at... Never mind. Rather than adapt to the digital marketplace, NAB and RIAA act like buggy whip industries that refuse to innovate and seek to impose penalties on those that do, end quote. That's a great quote.
You know what I would have said?
What?
Really?
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 Did they say that?
An FM radio? Really?
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 And did they really
Really?
This would have been a bunch of questions. Really?
Really?
I just can't believe that they would say that. It's so
It doesn't
stupid.
even make sense. It's
And
like
so insane that did that really come out of their mouth? Because I think we should take the benefit of the doubt and say that was just a rumor.
Really?
Because otherwise they're complete idiots.
I think the RIAA should pay the Onion $100,000 to please write an article with that as the headline, so they can claim that these stupid link bait sites. We never said that. That was always just an Onion article.
If the Onion had put it in, we would have laughed.
It was the Onion. Wait.
Story. We are laughing.
All right, we're going to take a break. Our picks of the week coming up. You can say one more thing, Andy.
No. Just I was going to say there was a Mr. Show sketch from years ago where the movie studio made a movie that flopped. And they decided to sue every moviegoer in America and won an injunction that basically the judge sentenced all of America to see the movie once. And that's exactly what you can't make comedy that's funnier than what the RIAA is capable of.
You can't make this stuff up. Radio would agree to pay around $100 million a year for this. We'll give you $10. How many handsets are sold a year? It's got to be well over 100 million. So they're saying, we'll give you $1 for every single handset if you just put a radio in it.
God, right. Let me think about that. No. Although I will say that the only reason I kept my Zune for a little while longer was because it had FM when I go to the gym, and but then I decided
listen to the TVs.
Yeah, listen to the TVs. That's the only.
You can't do that either anymore, thanks to the FCC.
Yeah, you can
listen to the TVs. No, they're not on the FM band anymore. Are they?
On 24-hour fitness over here, they are.
Yeah, because they put it on there.
Right.
They have a little broadcaster transmitter.
That's
They used to be you could listen to a couple of channels.
Well, that's because the digital changed over.
Right, because the digital, is no longer there.
Well, actually, the digital changeover worked well for me. I just reprogrammed my TV again, like yesterday, and I'm down to ABC, the all religious network, and that channel that does nothing but show like the A-Team and Knight Rider.
This is a Comcast.
I'm so happy with the switch over to digital.
It's been so
I used
good.
to get 11. Now I have all the free time in the world not to watch television.
Is this on the cable or is this broadcast?
No. It's just I have I only have cable in like 2 different rooms of the house, and I don't want to like have it run into like the kitchen / salon shared area. And it used to be that I would get like 11, 12, 13 channels over broadcast, including half of them which are a little bit fuzzy but perfectly watchable. And now
you're in the cliff. You're in a cliff area. That's why.
I'm just not cliff area. For God's sakes! I mean, I was getting lots and lots of channels, and all I know is now it's just the stupid finicky thing of, oh well, I'm going to give you certain snippets of it, but we feel as though the signal quality is below the required standards, so we're not going to let you watch Dancing with the Stars tonight.
The real thing that pisses me off is that Comcast used this as an excuse, right, to say, oh, well, now we're going to make you have a digital cable box because, oh, digital's here. Like somehow the broadcast digital mandate had anything to do with cable. So now I used to get a bunch of stations in the clear on analog on my cable, and they're all gone now. All I get is crappy stations, even though I'm watching cable.
And what's fascinating is that you know why all that bandwidth got opened up when they moved to digital? It's because the digital signal is so much more compressed.
Right.
Like if you actually, the old analog, if you can pick up an HD channel in the old analog with rabbit ears or whatever, it was unbelievably clear. You know, it was like.
Well, I think it's still pretty good, though, isn't it? No.
I have a screenshot from the first time I used the ITV HD, which is of David Letterman facing his audience, and you could recognize every face in the audience.
Yeah.
There was so much detail and so uncompressed. Yeah. So yeah,
it's like when we were on Lab with Leo. You look at the monitors there, and you're like, everybody would watch HD if they saw what we saw in the studio, and that's what you see on the analog signal.
Right.
But once you get digitized, you get all macro blocking.
Oh, I hate macro blocking, whatever that is. Let's take a break. We're going to get your picks of the week, ladies, in just a moment. But first, I want to tell everybody about audible.com. It's a great place to get audiobooks. I live on audiobooks. I know, Andy, you do too. Listening to a podcast, of course, means that you must like audio in your car, at your commute, at the gym, when you're working at home, and boy, Audible really makes it come alive. 75,000 titles that give you just, everything. Bestsellers, fiction, nonfiction. I listen to a lot of history, some wonderful, mysteries. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Stieg Larsson Millennium Trilogy, that's very popular right now on Audible, and I'm loving that. But also sci-fi, science and technology. There is a lot on audible.com. Consider it really kind of like your bookstore, your library, where you can instantly get a book. It takes about a minute at most to download a book, even at the highest quality, for your iPad, your iPhone, your iPod, Android phones. I love the Apple app, too. Have you played with the app now on the iPhone? It's great.
Yeah, it's my cleaning buddy.
Yeah. When you clean, who wants to
Cleaning is a waste of time, and I can't usually, and reading for me is I don't like to read. But like,
it's funny.
To me, I don't like to unitask. I don't want to unitask, so I want to get that information in.
Yep.
And cleaning's kind of this thing that happens in the background. Like you don't need to be thinking. So you can be listening to Audible and absorbing some cool information while you're making your house more presentable.
I suddenly understand. This is for multitaskers, isn't it?
It is.
I get it now.
You don't want to be a unitasker.
We're not.
Reading is a unitask.
Yeah, we're not unitaskers. We're multitaskers. So they have it for Android and iPhone and iPod Touch and BlackBerry, these great Audible apps. I'd love to see one for the iPad as well. What's nice about that is your whole library is there, so you can download any book anytime, which is really nice. Andy, do you have a favorite you're listening to these days?
Yes, I'm actually getting caught up. I finished Operation Mincemeat a couple of weeks ago, which will go down as one of my favorite audiobooks ever. It was just such a great book. Although it did show off one disadvantage of audiobooks, because I was driving along, and it's that story about World War II spy operations, and I get to the section where they're talking about how there was a small hitch because one of their spies was recently arrested in Spain dressed as a middle-aged woman.
That's a bit of a hitch.
Exactly, describing that, well, it was odd, and he was photographed in drag and then photographed by the police, not in drag anymore, describing wearing a look of demure contentment, wearing full-length opera gloves. And as it happened about 5 minutes after, like, I'm driving, like, home after listening to this, 5 minutes after that, I passed by, like, a strip mall with a Barnes & Noble, and I'm like, I'm going to have to pull in, see if they have a copy of this book, and see if there's a picture of this mid-40s guy in dowager drag, because unfortunately that's the one thing you do not get from the audiobook. And
yeah, no pictures.
It was worth pulling over, because it was like Alec Guinness and
oh, that's so funny
as the Queen and the Mouse that
ruined
it.
That's funny.
Anyway. So
I have to get that book, because you really love that book. I love that book,
especially because the guy who reads it has a natural British accent, and he can also do like all the different regional accents that are required when he's reading letters from like American generals and stuff like that. But overall, his accent is just like the scene in every really good World War II film where like the Royal Air Force like major has a riding crop and is like slapping at parts of a map saying, we mean to harass Jerry here, and here.
I love that stuff.
And that's the voice he does like for like 400, 500 pages.
Oh, I love it.
As I said, start to finish, great story, well told, and also well played. So I'm just finished. I'm almost finished getting caught up. I'm nearly at the end of Pictures of the Revolution, which is another book that's really working out well. So my next recommendation are books that I've a series of books that I read in paperback, have not listened to in audio yet, although I've purchased them. Woody Allen has recently agreed to do audiobooks of all of his books of short fiction. So my pick this week is the Woody Allen collection, Without Feathers, Getting Even, Near Anarchy, and Side Effects. And he
reads them, which you got to, because it's his voice, you know.
Exactly, and because you forget that he started off as a stand-up,
right?
And so his stand-up records are still some of the top records ever done in stand-up comedy. There are people who have certain taste in breeding. If you just simply tell the story of the moose, they will be able to say it. And so the Rosenbergs carried the moose into the party.
I remember this vividly. Yeah. The moose. And so it's just the way he says moose.
The Rosens, they won. I'm sorry. I'm about to do the entire moose.
Don't do the moose. Just tell people they can get it at audible.com.
I'm going to tell you that his large collection of short stories. He wrote these books, I believe, in the late '60s and early '70s. But it's him reading them. One of the funniest parts, though, is that it starts off with, you also get a 30-minute special interview with him in which he complains that he really hated doing this. He doesn't feel as though audio was the right format for his material. That was designed to be read and not to be read and not listened to.
He's so neurotic. If he were ever happy doing anything, you'd know to be the wrong thing. Let me play a little bit of Woody Allen from the Woody Allen collection. This is available free.
On the way home from a heist, I'd steal some pajamas to sleep in, or if it was a hot night, I'd steal underwear. It was a way of life. I had a bad upbringing, you might say. My dad was always on the run.
I think people think that this is his normal. I think it's a studied affect. I think the character, the nebbishy character he created as a comic and goes through his movies is really a character, right? And I have a feeling.
I've read a biography of him that claims that a lot of it is just he has stated that the real him is nothing like his film persona. At Pictures of Revolution, I'm now at a section where Warren Beatty has hired a young Woody Allen to write his next movie for him, What's New Pussycat, in which part of Woody Allen agreed to take less money, and if he were allowed to write one small part for him that was supposed to be 5 pages long. And right now it's dragging on, and right now at this stage 70 minutes of the movie is now about Woody Allen's character, and Warren Beatty has been turned into like the second banana, and it is like the Woody Allen nebbish character who anyway, so he definitely that's definitely a calculated move on his part to be a silent film character who talks.
Absolutely. Great selection. Stuff. Really.
I love the books. I haven't listened. I have purchased the audiobook. I have not listened to it yet, but I've read all these books, and it was one of those things where, okay, let's buy the next one. That was okay. Let's buy the third one. It's like, there's another one left. Okay, let's buy that one too. Over the course, I remember a course of one summer where I discovered this series of books, and was just, is there another one? Okay, let's buy that one too. So,
I want to mention, if you're already, now this you can get for free if you're not an Audible member by going to audible.com/MacBreak. You sign up for the gold account, you get 1 book a month, And this could be your choice, and you can cancel any time and keep the book, so it really is free. But I should mention, if you're already an Audible member, and I know a lot of people listen to the show become Audible members because of the show, they have a free selection, I think, of Woody Allen on there as well for existing members. So you can get something free, too. Audible.com/MacBreak. Now it's time for our picks of the week, and let's start with Alex, actually.
All
Alex,
right. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Hold on. I never tried to do this with my iPad.
You're doing it with a pad. You want me to hold it up for you on camera 5? Or? Here
we go.
I can help you with that.
Let's see.
You know,
oh yeah, it works.
I'll show you.
There's a little bit of an echo.
Whoa, what is it?
So you hear me?
Hello?
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 Are you talking to the...
I'm talking to my iPhone.
And it's coming out on my
iPad.
Isn't that
cool?
Is there a use for this?
Yes, there is a use. Okay, so this is called Walkie Talkie Pro. Here, I'll turn this on. So this is called Walkie Talkie Pro, and the advantage of this is that it's not just iPhone to iPhone or iPad to iPad. This is the ability to do many iPhones onto a single channel.
So basically, your iPad becomes a walkie-talkie?
Yeah. So if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, everybody can be walkie-talkied in. This began as a
we could have meetings, but we could all be in different rooms in the house?
This is No, you're ruining everything.
So it's like having 6 walkie-talkies all tuned into the same channel where everyone can hear whatever.
As long as you're all in the Wi-Fi area, but that's the problem. Yeah, but you have to be within Wi-Fi.
Well, or you have to be within walkie-talkie range. I mean, that's a pretty common need. And I'm trying to figure out how to.
So it doesn't work over 3G, or it only works over Wi-Fi.
You can, like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. But here's the thing: is that what we
I consider myself.
Yeah, exactly. So what we needed for is specifically the first reason that I got it, I downloaded a bunch of walkie-talkie apps because I wanted a quick baby monitor where I could throw one of these. I took my old iPhone, threw it into
you give your baby the iPhone, and then you can listen to her make calls.
Right, exactly. And I Skyped it. Skype was the first solution that I used, and then
I get it.
And then what I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I got this one, and we tested it a lot, and kind of used it, and we did it in the office. And we had like 6 of them, so you can have a whole bunch of people on a channel. You can have a couple different channels. So, like for instance, if you have a camera crew, and that camera crew all has a headset.
Now, is there an iPhone-only version of this? Because it'd be great if you all had iPhones. They'd be like push to talk almost.
Well, the thing is that it works with the because it's Wi-Fi. It works with the iPod Touch as well.
Right.
So you can do you don't need 3G.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So you could have everybody talking to each other.
It would be cool if it were. It would be cool if it were 3G as well.
It would be, but
then it'd be like push to talk.
But what's nice is that it's really, really quick. It's like you turn it on, and now you just hit, I just want to, and so what makes it great is being able to, cheaply communicate, connect all of your, everyone on a crew or everyone.
Catatonic says this would be useful if you had, you blew a fuse, and Dad goes down in the basement with his iPad, and then he goes, "Is that it?" And then you could say, "No, that's not it." "Is that it?"
Well, I mean, when you're working on a crew, when you're working, especially on a film crew, they have we had like we were shooting on Friday in Sonoma at Cornerstone. Have you been to Cornerstone?
No,
it's really nice. Anyway, but we were shooting and we all had the walkie-talkies, and so instead of yelling at each other, we can say, "Hey, I need you to open up the exposure a little bit while I'm sitting at the mixer," and I can tell everyone quietly to where they all need to go. And so that's what the walkie-talkies are really useful for. But being able to do that effectively, and we all have iPhones, and so it was kind of like there's got to be something on the iPhone. Well, it turns out there's a whole bunch of walkie-talkie apps. I bought them all for you. I took a bullet for our listeners.
You. And this is your
So I went out and bought all of them and tried them.
Do they have different channels, or is that just a lie?
Just drag that, yeah. So,
look.
See? So you can have lots of people on different channels.
So channel 2, how are you? We're ready. Channel 9, are you ready?
Yeah. Or you can have everybody. So this one.
What's BIP?
That's so you can at the beginning or the end of a
That's
you
the
go
little
bleep, bleep, bleep. Yeah.
What is that blip for? What does that do?
Usually it's to tell people that you're starting or stopping.
I'm talking. I'm talking here.
Now I'm not talking.
Now I'm not talking.
And you don't always want it. So the problem with some walkie-talkies is they kind of don't give you a choice. So the
how much is this?
The Pro version will cost you 99 cents. It's really expensive.
Oh, it's an iPhone app.
It is an iPhone app. That one's zoomed up. So so it's more useful on the iPhone than the iPad. It's just that's how I could show it.
It turns all the iPhones into. That's really cool.
A walkie-talkie. So really walkie-talkie Pro. And
now you may have,
I like it.
You may have noticed. I'm going to do my.
You can also do. Yeah, someone pointed out you can't do Morse code if you know it.
Beep, 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 beep. So you notice when I show iPads on TV,
You get that.
you get a lot of reflection. You can see the fingerprints and the stuff, and it's been driving me crazy. Steve Gibson recommended something which I put on my iPad, and look at this. Look at this. Just as bright, just as easy to read, but the reflection is a matte finish for your glossy iPad. I'm still getting reflection, but it's not as bad, and it's really it's a huge help for us in shooting the iPad. So if you wish not to have a glossy iPad, you can put this film on here. It's from a company called iLove at i-love.com. Now,
you cannot get it at the Apple Store.
Probably not, because it's we only make glossy. I'm sorry, but you can get it on Amazon for about $15. It's $20 from the iLove site. Now, here's the caveats. It's almost impossible to put on, but they send you with it. They send you 2 sheets.
That's great.
And Steve Gibson told me, he said, just think of the first sheet as practice because you will not get it. So I said, no, I will get it. I'm going to get this on 2 different. And he was right, partly because if there's even the tiniest speck of dust, it shows up as a bubble, and you can't get rid of the bubble. Right. So what you end up doing is putting the first one on, learning like the skills of this, and also it picks up all the dust that was on there, right? And so then you immediately do the second one. And I was able to get the second one on here without... I'll try to get something. Yeah, when it's a black screen, you can really see. There's no bubbles. It really did a nice job. It is absolutely a matte finish. There's a little. No, that's just a dot. Yeah, there's no bubbles. It does also eliminate some of the fingerprint issues, but you got to like matte screen. So if you want a matte screen for $15, don't think of it as $15 for 2. The first one's for practice. It is a pain in the butt. But it does, in fact, work.
There's a lot of manufacturers that have been doing these where they're shipping them as a group. The one that I got, I can't think of the name of it right now. The front that I use for my iPhone, it came with like 3 of them. And you think, oh, I can put it on 3 phones? No, it just takes a couple practices, and then you're not bummed when you get it.
Right.
I won't even buy one now that doesn't have multiple.
It should have multiple.
Yeah.
People have asked, how does it feel? It feels very smooth. It is not sticky. It is not tacky at all. It's very easy. In fact, I kind of like the touch feel to it. It doesn't. It's a nice touch. It's almost a little bit. It's certainly almost as smooth as a glass. There's no residual stuff, and it probably will help you a little bit if you're on an airplane. Although you can still see it even at an angle. I've been very happy. It does not dim it appreciably. You can see it still looks pretty good compared. Let's compare it to Alex's unmodified. You can see it isn't quite as bright. It does dim it down, but it just doesn't have those reflection issues. And I really have to say I've been very happy with it. So the iLove, would I put it on all my iPads? Probably not. I don't mind glossy. I get glossy screens. But boy, for the one we shoot on camera, this is great. i-love.com. Thanks to Steve Gibson for that recommendation. And now, before we go, Andy Ihnatko's pick of the week.
Mine is an EPUB creator. I've been trying every single app for building EPUBs out of manuscripts, and I finally found the mechanism that I really, really like. It's an open source program called Sigil, and this is just the result, just on the iPad here. It seems as though you have 3 different. If you want to build EPUBs, you have 3 or 4 different solutions. One of them is to just use Stanza, which can give you a very simple drag and drop sort of book. Very, very bare bones, but it will put it into an EPUB format so you can read it on your phone, read it on your Sony reader, read it on whatever other device you have. If you want to do something a little bit more sophisticated, where it has things like it has a cover, it has an actual graphical cover that'll show up in the bookcase, where it'll have an actual table of contents, where you can actually affect the formatting and fine tune it however really you want. There are really only 3 different solutions. There's Adobe InDesign, which costs a lot of money, and it is truly a professional tool that takes a long time to really learn, and it's probably more bother than most people would want to go through. There is also an open source app called Calibre, which I'm sure is very useful, but it is every bad thing you imagine from open source software. The user interface is just horrible. They just every function has a different button for it. Some of the buttons contradict with some of the other buttons. It's just terrible. Sigil, however, is head and shoulders the best solution for almost anybody who might want to use it. It's a very easy to use, very, very powerful tool. Whether what you want to do is simply take a long text that's simply on your hard drive and turn it into a book that, you know, so that you can have your employee operation manual like on your iPad and read it that way, all the way to being an author who wants to self-publish and wants to create an EPUB that looks polished and professional. Because if you want to do it in 3 steps, open up a text file or an HTML file, click 3 buttons and it'll turn into an EPUB. That's like the stanza solution. But if you want to make it polished, not only can you do things like add chapter sections and table of contents and footnotes, you can also open up a split screen view so that one pane will show you what it's supposed to look like when people are actually reading it. Meanwhile, in another pane, you're looking at the actual HTML that's going to define it. So if you decide that I want this section heading to be on a colored background with a border around it, and I want it to be a larger font size, you can just simply add like 1 line of CSS, standard CSS to it, and bang, it's done. If you want to affect the positioning of a piece of a graphic, again, just add a little. You can either use built-in like word processor type tools to insert the graphic and decide how it should be positioned, or you can add a little bit of CSS and do it that way. So I'm obviously looking at it more from a point of view of someone who wants to publish and sell stuff through EPUB. But I've got at least like 4 or 5 different books in my library that are nothing but like homemade sigil style books. This is a long article from the Village Voice that was long enough that I wanted to actually read it while I was having lunch. And again, it took me about 5 minutes to turn it to something that I could really just enjoy wherever I go. I've turned like 300-page books that I previously had scanned and just converted with Stanza as a quick and dirty thing. I'm talking about like commercial books that are just out of print. Some of my favorite books. I've scanned some of my favorite books. If I read them like once or twice a year, they're worth turning into EPUB. And it took me all of like 20 minutes to turn it from a very quick and dirty sort of EPUB translation to something that if I paid $4.99 for it in the iBook store, I would not have batted an eye because it looks like what I would expect an actual iBook store book to look like.
How do you get it into the iPad after you create it?
It's just a standard EPUB file, so you just drag it onto iTunes just like you would any other EPUB file. It will show up in your books library or any other device you have that will work with EPUB files. I believe you can even email it to yourself or add it to your Dropbox, and your standard viewer launcher will know to launch an EPUB viewer in order to view it. But again, it's true device independence. That's why I was talking about earlier how I sort of had to train myself to let go of the idea that I can control how people are going to, how this is going to look to every single user. That the less hard formatting you put into this book, the better. But an application like Sigil allows you to make those little tweaks that are very easy to do and will translate to any device, whether it's again a Sony reader, a Nook, a phone, an Android, or an iPad. And it's open source. It's available for Windows, Unix, Linux, and Mac, and it's absolutely free.
Love this. This is great. Yeah,
great app. Very, very polished. I would pay $20 for it if it were $19.99 share.
And this really will empower people to self-publish in a form that you could then, put on almost any platform. I think that's really great. Does the Kindle support EPUB? No.
No.
Nook does.
Nook has EPUB as one of its standard formats. Sony Reader also supports EPUB as a standard format. I know of a couple people who, now that there's an app kit for Android, have announced that they're going to come up with an EPUB reader for it. I haven't actually seen.
Well, you could also get the Nook application on Android, and that would read it, I presume.
Is it on? Oh, on Android. I'm sorry. Do you mean? I'm sorry. Did you say Android or Kindle?
Kindle is what I'm curious about.
Oh, yeah. I believe now that there's an actual app development kit for Kindle. I have talked to a couple of people who have said that they want to build an EPUB reader that will run on the Kindle. And Amazon says they don't care. Go ahead.
Are you reading these on the Kindle or the iPad?
iPad. I really think that the iBook reader is a much more pleasant and a much nicer reading experience than the Kindle reader. I think that they really Amazon needs to sort of retune what the appearance of the text is like, how it lays it out automatically, unless it's specifically guided by the definition in the EPUB. I just think that iBooks does a much better job of it. I really wish that I could have the Amazon Kindle store with the iBooks reader attached to it. And that I would really have the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, we're still not in a position where you're lucky if you're looking for a specific book on the iBook store, you're lucky to find it in an iBook store. Whereas if it's not available on the Kindle store, then it's just not available.
Yeah, I have a couple of Kindle books that I bought. They're math for animation and computer graphics and stuff like that, and that I could only find on the Kindle, only find on Amazon. And so I have them in my Kindle reader, and I can go back and refer to it. But I have to admit, when I go to the iBook, I'm just like, really? Why can't I have it here? I really want it here.
Although everything really is exploding. Just today, Barnes & Noble announced that they have now an iPhone and an iPad versions of the Nook reader software.
That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
If you're actually one of the people who are buying digital books from Barnes & Noble, okay, fine, good, free download, great.
Yep.
Glad to see it. I'm not sure why I would buy a book through Barnes & Noble rather than Amazon, but okay.
If you have an iPad, though, would there be any reason to buy a Kindle version if it was available also in the iBook store?
I buy Kindle versions so I can run it on multiple platforms, including desktop and my Kindle.
That's the answer. Until Apple says they're going to support
I'll have to relook at the iBooks because I always use Kindle. I don't, but maybe it's better. I'll have to look at it.
I think it's the multi-platform thing. I would prefer to buy my EPUBs totally unlocked and free of DRM, but I know that's not going to happen in the next 5 years. The next best thing is a company that says, well, name a device that you have. Well, great, we have a reader for that.
Right.
Well, you forgot that? Good, we'll have that device too. Problem. The only thing you can't, so, okay, on that basis, great. That's why I buy most of my digital books via Kindle.
We are done. Thank you, gentlemen. Andy Ihnatko is the man in charge, professor in charge of technology at the Chicago Sun-Times. He also, oops, that's not his lower third. That's his lower third. He also blogs at the Celestial Waste of Bandwidth, www.cwob.com. Andy, always great. Always a slice.
Hey, Leo, I didn't know you're so interested in my lower third.
Your lower third is even better than your upper third. And I don't know about that middle third, but we'll just...
You are making me blush, Leo.
I love it when you talk TV. Alex Lindsay at the Pixel Core, thepixelcore.com for that great guild of multimedia artists, pixelcore.tv for the podcasts thereof. Anything you want to plug?
No, other than if you haven't seen MacBreak in 4K, it's up there. That's all I got to say.
You and everybody else.
Well, you know that
we're taking tickle the video and take bets on what time each one of us shave. You'll be able to figure it out by looking at one frame.
It's actually quite a thing. Well, if you do Chrome on a regular computer, you can see it. Now, what we have decided is that 2740 or whatever the high res is for the 27-inch.
Noticeably better.
Well, we're looking at making that not 4K, but making that maximum resolution so that because it doesn't the 4K. Yeah, it doesn't. We just did it because
nobody can watch it, but it's just the way you did the 1080p MacBreak originally. Nobody could watch that either.
Exactly.
Now they can.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of time.
Just give them a couple of years, and we'll all be watching 4K
soon. We'll be demanding that Lucas put Star Wars out in 4K.
Ooh. That would be very hard for many reasons.
He said it was interesting because he's one of the richest men in the world. He says it's very expensive to make a Blu-ray. It's like, okay, George.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, and the other thing, I thought this was very interesting. We didn't want to make a Blu-ray because we made the DVD too soon, which surprises me because it didn't seem like it was soon at all. And it didn't sell as well. And we wanted to wait till Blu-ray had really taken off before we made the Blu-ray version.
And now they said, well, if we don't get to do it now, we're never going to do it because it's never.
This is pretty much Blu-ray's peak.
and now we'd like to get it on Blu-ray while we can still sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Before it's over.
Right.
Alex Lindsay, Andy Ihnatko, and you're the most important person. Thank you for listening to MacBreak Weekly. Make sure you tune in if you want to watch it live. We do it every Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, or 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv. You can also join our chat room, irc.twit.tv, and make fun of us while we're talking.
I thought of one thing that I wanted to say.
Yes,
I waited. It just took me a little while. You caught me off guard. Tomorrow, we're going to be opening up our live stream. We do it about once a month. And so I'm going to be talking about HDR.
You do it like from the Pixel Core.
Pixel Core offices. And so I'm going to be talking about HDR. We do it every week for the Pixel Core, but we open it up about once a month for the public.
I made the world's ugliest Pixel Core, world's ugliest HDR over the weekend. It was really fun because we had Trey Ratcliffe on and he told me to do Photomatics, and so I was playing with Photomatics, which is really fantastic. And I happened to have a picture from when I dropped IB off at college, so I turned it like all the things up to high.
Oh, ow! That must have hurt.
Yeah,
you said it. You said everything to Miami.
Yeah. Yeah,
Miami downtown.
But
and that's a tone mapped image. What we're going to be talking about.
It was kind of an interesting result.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is kind of it's interesting looking.
That looks like a painting.
I was there, so it's a picture, but it does look just like a painting, which I like. Anyway,
cool.
That's silly, but
Yeah, so but that's a tone
That's
mapped
tone
image.
mapped,
What we're going to be
exactly.
talking about is what happens before a tone mapped image, which is the high dynamic range image that we use in computer graphics for lighting, and we use it for backgrounds.
So you just turn on the camera and talk, huh?
Well, there's 3 camera. It's actually
You turn on 3 cameras and talk.
and switch.
Show off.
But we also answer questions and go back and forth, and so it's really like an interactive conversation with our members.
I want to go on record saying 1 camera is enough for anybody. Who needs 3 cameras?
Right.
Bob Newhart did.
So
Are you saying
where
that
do we
you're
go?
better than Bob
Pixelcore.com
Newhart?
for that?
You go to pixelcore.com. You'll see a Pixelcore Live button, and it doesn't do anything right now, but it will tomorrow. It'll be at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard
So please
Time.
don't just keep pressing the button over and over.
Yeah. Nothing's going to happen until 4 o'clock tomorrow. So check it out.
I mean, I know it's overdone, but I think it's kind of cool looking.
I think it's
You're
great.
right.
It's very cool looking.
With HDR, there are 2 ways you can go. You can go colorful and arty, or you can go absolutely natural. And I think both choices are natural.
This was definitely not absolute. In fact, I would go back and fix the sky, which Trey says everybody has to do. He said I was lazy. Look, there's actually people in this.
It's cool.
It's very.
I like the look.
There's actually people there.
It looks like a painting.
It looks like.
I think you're right. You replace the sky with like something flat, or just paint in a new sky.
Yeah.
And you have a very, very pretty thing to hang on your
The
kitchen.
sky is where it fails because it's a little bit.
Where is this?
This is where I dropped Abby. This is where Abby goes to college.
Wow.
At great expense.
In the secret garden.
That's where your money goes. That's where.
I have that bumper sticker. My daughter and all my money go to college. Yeah, but it's beautiful. This is it was built. It's on the Hudson River Valley, and it was the campus was formed from 2 different large mansions. This is where all the rich people, Vanderbilt's, and this is where FDR's house was. And so they donated 2 different estates to almost 600 acres. And this is one of the gardens, the formal gardens from one of the estates that was donated to make the college campus.
Wow.
Would you like to go to college there?
Yeah.
I would.
In 1928.
We could have tea. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work. Break time is over.